Hi, GrapplingIgnorance. Kieran here. I hope you're good. Just responding to your video, which was called "You're Not Helping," which is about atheists coming up with arguments which you don't agree with. I thought I'd chime in with a couple of arguments that atheists use that I don't agree with. Like you, I'm an atheist, but yeah, it doesn't mean we agree with all the arguments that atheists come out with. The two kind of related arguments that I don't really agree with are firstly this idea that the burden of proof or the onus of proof or something lies with theists to show that God exists rather than with the atheists. And a similar related point that I've heard a couple of times, I haven't heard this point quite as often, is that like in a court of law you should be kind of beyond reasonable, the onus of like proving that God exists is on Christians, and that you should be kind of beyond reasonable doubt that God exists to be a theist for some reason. That second argument I think is worse than the other one, and I'll come to it in a moment. Let me first talk about the one about the burden of proof or onus of proof lying with the people claiming that God exists. Yeah, I don't really agree with this point. I think that basically, like with anything, you should believe it if you're kind of more than 50% sure it's true. I don't think that you should believe something more because it's a claim of something existing rather than not existing, unless there's a kind of some statistical reason to that sort of contributes to the statistics. Let me try and explain by way of an analogy. Imagine me and my friend are walking down a street, and we walk past a house, and my friend says to me, I bet there's an Olympic medal in that house we're passing right now. I bet in some drawer or on the wall or somewhere there's probably an Olympic medal. Hearing that, I'd probably say something like, "Oh, why'd you believe that?" And I'd be kind of expecting or hoping for some sort of pretty major piece of evidence, like something like Carl Lewis lives in this street and I've heard he lives in that house, or there's some medal collector who lives in that house and I know he's got pretty much all the kind of medals you can get. Let's say my friend, instead of saying that, says, "Oh well, it's quite a sporty kind of area, and there's loads of people, events in the Olympics these days, so I bet there's an Olympic medal in there." In the absence of this great evidence that I just mentioned about Carl Lewis or something, I'd say, well, probably not. I mean, there's not that many Olympic medals in the world, and there's a lot of houses, so what you're saying is probably isn't true. Let's say later on we're talking to another friend of ours, and we talk about this discussion we've had, and the other friend says to my first friend, "Oh well, I think the burden of proof will be on you to prove that the medal's there, rather than them falling on me claiming that the medal isn't there." I'd be like, "No, it's really just down to a statistical claim of how likely it is. We don't know whether there's a medal there or not, but it just comes down to us kind of a guess based on this kind of statistical sort of evidence." Let me take a slightly different example. Say we're walking past a house and my friend says, "I bet there's a trophy of some kind in that house." Now that would be quite different, wouldn't it? Because there's an awful lot of trophies around given out in school and amateur competitions and so on. So I've been to a lot of living rooms and houses where there's been a trophy on a shelf or on the mantelpiece somewhere. But again, I'd probably say about half the houses have probably got trophies. So I'd probably kind of, I don't know, I might agree with him or not. It'd be kind of a sort of 50-50 thing. But again, I mean, if the other friend turned up, what would he or she say about this burden of proof? I mean, who gets the burden of proof in that one? Is it again my friend, because he's making this positive claim about something being there rather than something not being there? I mean, if we imagine the kind of third example where we're walking past the house and my friend says, "I bet there's a toilet in that house." I mean, almost all houses, in my country at least, have toilets, and that would be a kind of safe bet, wouldn't it? So again, with the burden of proof thing, would that swap over to me if I maintain there wasn't a toilet there? I don't quite understand what this burden of proof thing does to the analysis. I mean, I don't understand where it really fits in or helps. And then, well, quickly the other case where atheists compare it to a court of law where you need to be beyond reasonable doubt that God exists or something like that. I really don't understand that at all. I mean, it's clearly we're just talking about believing something. We should be basing it on balance of evidence, shouldn't we? Beyond reasonable doubt, it seems to be just artificially putting a higher kind of threshold of kind of probability to believe something. I think if you're sort of 51% convinced that God exists, then you can call yourself or tentatively call yourself a theist. I mean, but beyond reasonable doubt, I've always been slightly confused with what that actually means, because clearly we can doubt anything. I can doubt that a man has gone to the moon, and it's also a reasonable doubt, and you can reasonably doubt. You should reasonably doubt everything. It's just you should attach a very low probability to that doubt. I mean, the chance of someone that humans haven't been to the moon is probably, I don't know, 1 in 1,000 or something pretty small. So beyond reasonable doubt, maybe that translates to 90% certain. So as I say, I have no idea why Christians should have to be 90% certain of God's existence to claim that He exists. Anyway, I hope you like those arguments. All the best.